This video is about the most difficult and harrowing experience that I have ever had in my entire life. It's also a story of what I wish I knew about perimenopause before it hit me in the face shortly after my 46th birthday. At the time, I was 100% sure that I was dying of an undiagnosed illness. Before I tell you my story, I want you to know that recording this video is difficult for me. On the one hand, I'm sharing my story because I believe I have a responsibility to support women who are suffering just like I was. This is also an opportunity to give younger women a heads up, that is to say, be prepared, perimenopause is coming. But on the other hand, telling my story means that I'm putting my personal details out there. I'll start by telling you about my life just before everything went crazy. I remember being 45. I was happy. I was the strongest girl in my gym. I was hitting and sustaining my body goals. I was eating healthy. I was quick-witted. I loved dressing up to go out. I loved coordinating my outfits. I used to wear really high-heeled shoes. I almost never wore flats. I wore makeup almost every day, and my makeup was always on point. I would change my jewelry daily. Life was good. I was living my best life, and so I thought that was how the rest of my life would be. I wasn't prepared for what came next. It all started with hot feet. Soles of my feet would be uncomfortably hot from within, and I couldn't bear for my feet to touch anything. That include the gas pedal, and even doing my exercises was difficult. I kept trying to lift my feet above, the ground or anything to make sure it wasn't touching anything so I could get that bit of comfort. The next thing that happened was lower belly fat. Before then, my belly was totally flat. But I woke up one morning and I had this little bit of belly fat. I remember asking my instructors, I was very concerned about where this newfound lower belly was coming from. Next up was back fat. You know the fat you have at the top of your back, which when you strap your bra, it leaves a depression. I didn't have that before then, and all of a sudden that was there, and it made me so uncomfortable in terms of the way my clothes fit. I really like my clothes being fitted to accentuate my figure, so that back fat wasn't working for me in any way. I remember the feeling I had of being so uncomfortable and always adjusting my bra to sit properly on my back and not have that fat exposed. As if this wasn't enough, next came bloating. Of course, I didn't know what bloating was at the time. I had never been bloated in my life. So my stomach, my entire stomach, my entire abs would all of a sudden become so much larger, and then it will remain that way for first a week and go away, then weeks on end. And then I used to wonder where my flat belly had gone to, and then all of a sudden I would see that flat belly. It would be flat for a bit and then it would be bloated again. It was pretty uncomfortable. I remember also being confused about that. My breasts then became really enlarged, like supersized and tender. That was very difficult for me. Apart from the pain, also the fact that my clothes didn't fit also were an issue. Next came a peculiar weight gain, which seemed to affect not just my stomach and my breast, but seemed to affect everywhere. I never knew what size I would be ahead, and that made dressing up to go out for an event difficult. Before now, going out for an event, I would get my clothes out and I would know what I was going to wear in a week or in 2 weeks. But at this stage, I never knew what was going to happen. Also, this weight gain, when it came and when it became sustained, was as much as 6 kilograms. I've never gained 6 kilograms per se, and if I ever had, I was always quickly able to knock those 6 kilograms off and go back to being my regular weight. But all of a sudden, nothing on the scale was shifting, no matter how hard I tried. And this was all combined with the bloating and with the tenderness of the breast. So it was a really tough and difficult time for me. Itchy ears was a problem. Because I'm prone to certain kinds of allergies, I'm used to my ears itching at night, maybe once a week or so. But all of a sudden, my ears were itching on the inside all night, every night. It was difficult to go to sleep. I would go to bed hoping to have a good night's sleep, but then the itching ears would wake me up over and over again. I didn't have a sound sleep for so many weeks in a row. Then I had tinnitus, which is a medical name for when you hear a strange sound in your ear, which only you can hear, nobody else can hear it. And this could be a hissing sound, could be a musical note, could be any sound at all. But the most important thing is that only you can hear it and nobody else can. Sometimes the sound seems to come from one ear and come out the other ear. You know, I would just be sitting down and I would just suddenly hear something, or it sounded like pressure is being released. You know, like when you're on a plane and then your ears suddenly pop. That was also something I experienced. If you're not careful, it's giving village people vibes. Then I became irritable around people. I didn't want to be around people. I didn't want to answer my phone. I didn't want to wear any jewelry. Wearing anything clinking was a taboo, and I suddenly moved from glam to drab. It's something I never thought would ever happen to me. My libido evaporated. It moved from whatever level it was on the libido meter to zero. That was difficult. Next was dryness in the nether region, which made everything quite difficult and uncomfortable for me. And along with this dryness came other kinds of dryness at about the same time. My skin became really dry. I never used to use any lotion or anything on my body. And then I found out that my skin was really dry and ashy, and then I had to use something. Then came dry eyes. My eyes would be itchy and irritable. I found out that they were dry eyes. Next was dry mouth. Dry mouth, you keep feeling thirsty, and sometimes it gives you an unpleasant odor in your mouth, and you keep brushing your teeth and your breath still doesn't smell fresh. You have to do a real amount of brushing. Like, I'm talking about brushing your teeth and flossing about 4 times a day to try to get rid of that unpleasant and sometimes embarrassing odor. Then we were in the heat of the pandemic, and then I broke out into some horrible acne on my cheeks. I wasn't sure at the time if it was caused by the face masks, but eventually when we stopped using face masks, the acne was still there. And I used to have such beautiful, smooth, flawless skin. You never quite know what you have until you've lost it. One of my most terrible symptoms was the stomach issues. I used to have a burning sensation in my stomach. It was torturous. And I went to the hospital several times for it. I saw 3 different doctors. I because it was really bothering me. I would have something to eat, and then I would have a bowel movement directly after that. Once this warm, uncomfortable feeling came on, I had to, like lie down, you know, flat on my stomach to sort of like ease that awful burning feeling. I was told by doctors that I had a stomach ulcer, which it turned out at the end of the day I didn't have, but it was really painful. I remember driving to work one day and praying out loud, begging God to heal me of this thing that had taken hold of my stomach. I took ulcer medication, which was prescribed by the doctors for 6 months straight, and those medications were extremely expensive, only to find out later on that I never had a stomach ulcer. It was all the perimenopause. It was torture. I would eat lunch and then I would have this excessive gas in my stomach, the kind of gas that just has a will of its own and wants to escape. And there's nothing you can do to hold it. And this was particularly embarrassing because I've always been a lady, and gas isn't anything you do when anybody else is around, but all of a sudden there is this happening and there's nothing you can do about it. So after lunch, I'll be forced to sit in one place, making sure nothing comes out and embarrasses me, but I'm making sure there's no funny sound. But then it made me so uncomfortable with all that gas roaring about in my stomach with nowhere to go. This was new for me. Then I had itching skin, really itchy skin. I remember thinking that I was bitten by an insect. I would check various parts of my body looking for the sting, after scratching and scratching that itch, but I couldn't find any, sting or any bite. Then came itching scalp. My scalp would itch and I would keep washing my hair over and over again, and the itch would be persistent. It's really bothersome. Next came anxiety, but I thought that it was related to the pandemic at the time and not wanting to be ill until I began to be afraid of people and situations. Then, being driven in a car, sitting in the passenger side, the drama would start. I would clutch on to the brace as if my life depended on it. I would be applying imaginary brakes. I would be covering my face eyes, trying not to see a difficult situation, trying not to scream to frighten or startle whoever was driving. Sometimes it was my husband, and this wasn't easy, always thinking something was a close shave. I would wince on one side and, close my eyes and startle. One moment I would be fine, and the next moment I'll be in full panic, even when just sitting at home in my house. The fear would just come over me, and my mind would begin to work overtime, wondering what was making me so afraid. I could go from normal to being in a full-blown panic in just 60 seconds. Everything at work was getting to me. Every little issue was like an insurmountable problem or challenge. Then I became confused, and when I felt confused, I felt incompetent. And for some reason, I couldn't think straight. I was always throwing myself under the bus. Next came brain fogged, and I must tell you, I struggled. I struggled with everything. I struggled at work. Not a day went by when I didn't think of retirement. I could try all day to read a one-page document, but I couldn't comprehend what was it. When I was working, I would find that I was arranging documents, put documents together, I would sort them, put them on the right side of my table, find that I picked them up again, sorted them, put them on the left at the end of the day without getting anything done at all. I thought I would lose my job, My brain took so long to boot in the morning. Let's say I woke up this morning and there's a meeting at 2 o'clock. I may not remember until 11 or 12 that there was a meeting in 2 hours. I wouldn't remember what the day of the week is. I wouldn't remember pressing engagements for the day until just before the time. It was like my brain was inactive. It was floating. My mind was floating above and ahead of everything, but just couldn't settle, couldn't engage with what was happening all around me. It was a really scary time. Next came a really big one, that was depression. I had no joy in my life. Being a normally happy person, this was tough. I had a feeling that nobody understood me and nobody cared. It's like you're fading away and everyone seems to be moving on with their lives. I spoke to a therapist. It turned out I was on the verge of depression. I was emotionally numb on some days, and on other days, my emotions were all over the place. I would cry. I didn't want to have any social contact with anyone. I didn't want to be seen. I didn't want anybody to see me. I didn't want to speak in public. I just wanted to like climb under a rock, maybe until this was all over, if that was possible. Next came hot flashes, and you just suddenly feel this warm surge of current, should I say, in the upper part of your body. It comes on, and sometimes it leaves you in a sweat. I've had that come and go several times, and then there were night sweats. Night sweats was also particularly uncomfortable. You would wake up in the middle of the night and your pillow, your bed sheet would be soaked because you've been sweating, and you would be so uncomfortable. And then, of course, you wouldn't get much sleep. Then my regular allergies got worse, coughs, colds, the whole gamut. Urge incontinence, urinary incontinence. I can't count the number of times that I would park my car on the street and run into the house to use the convenience. I would run so hard to make sure there was no incident or accident. And then when I was done, I would get back into my car and then drive into the driveway properly. I didn't want to risk, trying to park my car properly in front of the house and then go start trying to open the door with my keys. I didn't trust that, and I didn't want those accidents or slips to happen. I remember being really tired, fatigued. First thing in the morning, waking up, having a bath, and the next thing would be, I'm tired. And I wondered why I kept feeling that way. First thing in the morning, very, very unusual. Then my vision became blurred. I've always had like 20/20 vision, and all of a sudden I couldn't read fine print. I couldn't see things that were that small. Chest pain. The chest pain would grip me in the middle of my chest and make me feel like I was having a heart attack. Not that I had ever had one before, but that was what I could liken it to. The first time I had that, I was driving, on the highway, on the expressway, and I was wondering, oh, is this a heart attack? Am I going to pass out and am I going to die? I went to the hospital severally for that because that continued for months on end. They didn't find what was causing the chest pain. Then food would get stuck in my throat. There was a particular day I was eating either chicken or bread and it wouldn't go down. It just got stuck in my throat and I thought I was dying. It just wouldn't move. It was just there, and that happened for a couple of weeks. Then came one of the symptoms that has given me, should I say, the most trouble or has been the longest lasting, and that is carpal tunnel syndrome. I would wake up at night and my hands will hurt. all my fingers would hurt and it would sting, it would burn. At the same time, it would be numb. My hand always like was eased. I felt better whenever I held my hand up, but I couldn't hold my hand up all night. It robbed me of my sleep. I remember seeing about 4 doctors for that and getting various kinds of medication. Eventually, I had to wear a wrist splint. It was a very tough time. I remember I couldn't go to work for about 2 weeks at the time because I had no sleep at night and I wasn't coherent during the daytime as a result of that. I became amazingly forgetful. I would forget everything. If I plan to do something now, 2 minutes later, I would have forgotten all about it. My short-term memory was almost zero. The way my body smelled would change. I would get home from after being outside for the day, take off my clothes and just give it a smell. I think that's habit for me. And I found out that the smell was different. It didn't smell like me anymore. And it didn't smell like me in a not too nice way. Then I began to have chills. I would suddenly feel cold. And sometimes that would happen right after a hot flash. So it would be a hot flash, a chill, and a hot flash, and a chill. I was easily overwhelmed. Everything just seemed to be sitting on my shoulders, pressing down on me. I lost hair. I had a bald spot somewhere here, and I had to use mascara, to cover that spot up. Then I couldn't sleep properly. I was having problems sleeping, and this was even beyond my hands, which were hurting with the carpal tunnel and the night sweats. I just couldn't have sleep for sometimes weeks on end. Sometimes it would get better, and sometimes it would be worse. I woke up one morning to find dark patches all over my face, and in some cases, very light patches. It made me look old. It made me look ugly. I couldn't find anywhere to bury my head. I refused to hide behind makeup, so I decided to hide behind my glasses. That lasted for a very long time. I really wished I was invisible or that the ground would open up and swallow me. I have a bad knee from an old accident. The osteoarthritis I had in my knee began to have so many flare-ups. It would swell. It would be very painful. I'll be unable to move about. I had to go to the doctor to have them put a needle in my knee and take out I think it's synovial fluid it's called, to be able to have me have ease of movement. At such times, I couldn't walk. It's incredibly painful. My body composition changed in terms of weight distribution, and I got heavier on top than at the bottom. My skin was oversensitive. I used a particular conditioner to wash my underwear, and it gave me a red, angry rash on my chest area. It was extremely painful. It was smart all day. Painful. I couldn't wear a bra. I didn't want to go out. It was a really nasty rash. I lacked motivation to do anything at all, and I kept procrastinating. I would put off anything to whenever, which was not like my normal self. I'm normally like action biased. Then I had fecal incontinence. When I'm about to have a bowel movement, I must go immediately. No playing, no wasting time, nothing. Otherwise, it just might turn into an accident. I thought that would happen when I was really old, like 90, but then here I was. My voice changed. My voice deepened to what you can hear now, and I really didn't expect that. That means singing difficult. All these symptoms happened to me over the last 6 years. My world shifted from right beneath my feet. I suffered. This has been my perimenopause journey so far. All the symptoms have come and gone over the last 6 years, and some have kept reoccurring after taking a break. I know it's not over until it's over, and in some cases, I know it will never be over. And this is because we remain in post-menopause for the rest of our lives. But I'm hoping that most of the symptoms settle at some point in the future. If you can relate to my experience, I want you to know you're not crazy, you're not lazy, and I assure you that we can survive this, we can thrive, and we can get our lives back. If this video was helpful in any way, please leave a comment for me. Thank you for watching. Take good care of yourself. Remember to be your sister's keeper. I'll see you soon.